Jorge, welcome back.
Good to be back.
I can't believe
Excited. You can't believe I'm back?
I can't believe you came back. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I figured, why not? It's fun. Actually, we have a great time recording.
Well, dude, I appreciate you coming back. I always love having you. You always do great work. But this time you sent me a video, and I thought, that's my job. I send you videos. You're supposed to look at my videos, but you sent me a video.
Yeah, so I got into using this tool, the Migrate for Compute Engine, formerly Velostrada, and there were no videos online, so I thought to myself that this would be a good opportunity to put some a video walkthrough together on this.
Yeah. So we'll just watch it like Mystery Science Theater. You remember that? That was awesome. We'll just do that, and we can walk through what it actually takes to do the migration, and I think a lot of people will be happy because we get a lot of requests. Where are we at here? So we're at setting up the migration environment, I guess. I mean, what should we need to know? We're looking at documentation.
Yeah, so here's the documentation for migrating using Migrate for Compute Engine, which formerly Velostrada. I would say when looking at this documentation, very important, make sure you're on the correct version, 4.11, which is current version as of this recording. Very important because the earlier documentation may throw you a curveball and may be incorrect. So please make sure you're using the most current version. Some troubleshooting steps too before we get into this. 9 out of 10 times, if you're migrating something over and it fails, whatever instance, Linux, Windows, etc., most likely it failed because of one of two reasons. A firewall rule is set up incorrectly. Your manager can't communicate to some server,
right?
Something similar to that. Or it would be the other option where your persistent disk storage quota has been exceeded. And this happens a lot with new accounts. If you open up a new account in GCP, just make sure you go to that. I actually have part of the recording. It shows you going through the motions of how to increase that quota. It's something that gets done really quickly. So
yeah,
usually those are your two issues.
All right, cool. So I'm looking at I'm looking at this from the Mystery Science Theater perspective, and we're going through prerequisites here. Is there any specific thing here that I should know or you want to point out?
So some of the prerequisites would be, you have an organization, you have your VPN currently set up, that you got traffic flowing between AWS and GCP. Traffic flowing both ways, very important. Usually what I do up on the firewall, I just open things up, pretty much everything for now, and then worry about locking it down later on.
Right.
But so organization, your VPN set up, firewall opened up, and I think those are really the key points.
Yeah, and part of the reason to show these areas is so customers can reference themselves, right? Like these are a couple key locations that you had to go through to actually get to the content, right? And so I'm glad we're referencing these. All right, so you walk me through from here. Looks like we're going to a download page.
So basically what we're going to do now is run a CloudFormation template inside of AWS to get our user account set up. So there's a download section that we can go to, download CloudFormation template. We bring up CloudFormation, execute this template.
It's nice that we make those available.
Yeah, and the beauty of it, we always make, usually Google stuff in Terraform, cloud deployment manager.
So we're back in the AWS console, this game.
CloudFormation.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm making who I'm making videos for, because I mean multi-cloud just requires us to be all over the place, So upload the after you've unzipped it, you're just uploading the, what's it called again? CloudFormation, right?
Yeah, CloudFormation template, JSON format. So I'm going to create our CloudFormation stack here. Stack name, just call it Migrate for Compute Engine. Formerly the artist known as Illustrator.
I see you're choosing your VPC.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, and what rule always remember when you're creating your VPN, kids, make sure you don't have overlapping CIDR ranges.
Ah, got it. The perennial rule of CIDR ranges on VPNs. Cool. So everything, I mean, you're not really doing much in terms of configuring. You're just kind of checking it out, and pretty straightforward, actually.
Yeah, pretty straightforward as far as, CloudFormation. The heavy lifting is pretty much done for you. You're creating your group for Migrate for Compute Engine, Illustrator, your policy, all that, so that it can get into AWS and do what it needs to do for the migration process. It needs to access your virtual machine inside of AWS. So we're just giving the access to that.
Cool. So talk to me
next
about,
step.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're gonna create our user, and we're gonna generate our access key, secret access key, and access key for AWS.
So this user is used to essentially communicate, or to do the migration?
This is like your credentials.
Okay.
To get for Migrate for Compute to communicate to GCP. So programmatic access. I'm just going to create that and assign it the group that the CloudFormation template created. Create our user. There's your access key and secret access key that you will be blanking out later.
I guess we take that to GCP.
Yep. We download the CSV. We keep it somewhere safe. We don't share it with anyone.
So we're adding a user here back in GCP?
So we're back here in GCP. We're going to go into our organization, and we're going to make sure that the following roles are available to our user that's going to be doing all this. So very important, org role admin, project owner, compute admin. Inside the documentation, list all the different admin roles that you want to put, but usually your org admin, your owner, project owner, and your compute admin.
Cool. Okay, so we're just making sure your user essentially has the rights. We're not using that other user from AWS yet.
Correct, sir.
Cool. Oh, so there's a link in the docs that just takes you directly to the marketplace entry.
Yep. So you have view documentation if you want. You just go to the marketplace. We download and set up Migrate. We set up Migrate for Compute Engine. Basically creates the manager instance for us.
And this is just asking for prerequisites, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's a whole set of firewall rules and documentation that I recommend. Every individual is going to do this. Go and look through your firewall rules, the recommendations made there, and very important you get those right. Or you can go by your own rules and just open up, make sure everything can communicate to each other.
So in this section, we're just naming the migration manager, which is the main VM, if I'm not mistaken. Can you talk about that for a second?
So yeah, it's basically just an application, web application, where you can go in there, log into your manager, and that's kind of like your portal, your console where you go and you create your jobs, your migration waves, and everything, and your central point to do everything related to the migration process.
Gotcha. So sort of the first step in configuring compute engine, Migrate for Compute Engine, is create the manager instance name it, and that gives you, again, the website that you'll go and configure a lot of stuff, right? If I'm understanding.
Yeah, at the end of this, it'll give you an IP address and just plop it into your browser, log in, and you can start setting things up.
Cool. So I see you checking out your version and regions, so forth.
Yeah, you want to keep everything in your same region, zone, etc., where your manager is going to plop down your instances.
Mm-hmm. So I notice you are kind of jumping down to look at the tags that you want for. So what are these tags actually for?
So these are the tags that are related to the firewall. So it's going to populate these tags on your manager instance.
Okay, so to get through the firewall, we need instances tagged with the right tag so that the firewall knows to let us go through. Is that right?
That's correct. And now we're creating our service accounts.
Yeah. And those are probably just used for all kinds of stuff, right? Like creating VMs and writing logs. I'm just kind of looking here, but
I was like, man, you've been doing your homework.
Yeah, I'm really a sharp guy. But so the service accounts, everybody should know in GCP, we use these service accounts to essentially do things that a user's not doing. So it's kind of like a service account from my old Windows days. Like it's a non-logged on user account to do things. Cool.
So just an additional service account. So you have a service account for cloud extensions and a service account for the migration manager. So 2 different service accounts.
Got it. One to do the work and one to do the logging of said work, I guess.
And then generating your passwords.
Yep. These are used to get into, well, that first one was used to get into the Velostrada manager later, right?
Right. Yep.
And for so I was just going to say, for all those folks who are out mining Bitcoins, we've already changed those passwords now. Cool. So that was the VM. It spun it up already.
VM. Oh, we're editing the VM instance. We're basically just going to open up HTTPS to this particular instance so we can log in via HTTPS.
Gotcha.
Now the default is on Google Cloud that it's opened up to the world. So you can leave it opened up to the world, or you can open up to your specific IP address /32. And remember, also make sure that your internal VMs can access it, because if not, then you can have issues.
So after we do the firewall rules, are we good to go? Are we good to log in now?
We should be. There's only one way to find out. So we type in the IP address of the manager, and if we're lucky, we get the screen where SSL error, and we just proceed.
Oh, here's where that username and password comes into play.
Yep.
So literally, we just spun up in the VPC a VM, and that VM is sort of managed, or the process is managed by a web application.
Yep.
And you're enabling logging. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I always enable logging, just if we have any issues, it's easier to resolve. So now we're going to configure AWS as a source.
Nice. All right. So all our VMs in this case is essentially come from That's what we're configuring.
Yep, we're going to pull everything, our test VM over from AWS.
Oh, so now I see where the AWS credentials come into play. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so when we click on, source, we're going to tell it, okay, this is an Amazon source.
Exactly.
Here's the location. Here's the keys to get there.
Yep. Region and your secret, your secret key and access key that we saved in our Google Sheets file.
Cool. I mean, I have to admit, most of this seems pretty straightforward. I would imagine after you get used to it, you could do it in your sleep. Or you probably feel like you can do it in your sleep. You
Yes,
did it a lot of times, I think, right?
Yes, I see these screens in my dreams.
Migrate.
I see a lot of computer stuff in my dreams.
Yeah, migrate is only one syllable away from migraine, right?
Yeah, so just entering your cloud credentials for your source cloud. So we're just picking all the AWS.
So it went out there and looked at, based on those credentials, it went and looked, and now we're able to pick our VPCs and everything.
You are correct, sir.
Nice. All right.
Be a silver ballot.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I've always wondered where that came from.
Now we're going to set up our cloud with extensions. And we're going to get
got to set
target cloud.
Target now.
Target cloud for our cloud extensions. So our target cloud being Google Cloud.
Right.
Picking our regions, VPC, etc. And of course, don't forget our tags. We'll copy over now.
To get through the firewall. I do like the tagging mechanism for firewall rules. I think that's pretty slick.
It's so convenient. It makes life easier.
Okay, so now we're just choosing the service counts that we set up. Got it. Migrate C extension. Is there any rules to any of these names, or pretty free flowing?
I try to follow documentation, and if the documentation doesn't provide something, whatever.
Got it. So in this case, in our region, we're saying this is where I want my VMs to go. In what zone, I guess.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm picking same zone, basically. I don't have any other zones right now at the moment.
Right. And so just anybody listening, we have zones is essentially like a large, or regions are a large location. Zones are more like our individual data centers, right? Cool. So it looks pretty good, but your status was impaired. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, so remember that issue? I wanted to go through this and run into this issue. Mm-hmm. Remember that quota issue I was talking about earlier?
Yeah.
So I made it a point so I can walk through just fixing the quota, because you're definitely going to run into this, and just to make life easy, we just go in and edit our quota and increase our limit, and within a few minutes, we get back that increase, so we're good to go.
Got it. We just need larger persistent disk in this case.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny if you ever rushed and procrastinated for a demo and you hit a quota limit, you better hope it's one you can clean up pretty fast.
And one thing when we record videos, there's never a troubleshooting or tip guide or something like that. That's why I thought it would be a good idea to leave this in there. So we can just repair it and we're good to go.
Nice. Little hiccup you know, subverted there. So we're back in the documentation now. We're scrolling. Pretty good bit of scrolling.
Yep. So we are going to go to AWS and we're going to change our instance tag, key, migrate, and value yes, to make sure that GCP can pick this up and migrate this VMware.
Gotcha. All right. So the tags tell us which one we're moving.
Yeah. We're going to use this tag inside of GCP. The runbooks look at this particular tag to make sure we're going to move this particular VM or groups of VMs.
So now it's a matter of creating that source sort of based on the tags, what we're going to actually start moving.
Yeah, we're going to generate our runbook now. It's going to pull the information from AWS. It's going to populate the sheets file. We're going to change our run group to 1. We're going to tell it migrate this particular instance.
Got it.
And we're going to have to fill in our instance type.
The old workhorse in2 there. Yeah, okay.
Yep. Copy paste. Good to go. Those are really the only 2 fields you need to fill in.
Got it.
If you ever get some kind of error when you validate the runbook, just go back inside and make sure it's properly, at least those 2 options are properly filled out.
Gotcha. So now it's time for the new wave, meaning a wave of machines we're going to migrate?
That is correct. So that runbook we just modified, we attach it. And validate it, make sure there's no errors on that runbook.
Validation. Something I've been seeking my whole life, but that's a whole nother therapy session. So I guess we passed.
Yeah, we passed. Flying colors. Now we're gonna do a test clone. Basically, a test clone is just gonna copy your instance in AWS and bring it up to GCP without shutting it down and making any changes to the source.
Okay, so it's actually going ahead. It's doing that clone now.
There you go. If you blink, you won't miss it.
72%. That's pretty quick. That's not cooking show magic, right? Like that. Is it really about that quick?
No, I think that is cooking show magic.
It is cooking show magic. All right, so it takes a little longer in real life.
Voila! Instantly.
Fair enough. So we'll look at the waves. We had 1 pass, it looks like.
Yeah, so it successfully migrated over the test clone. And now we're going to migrate over, first we did a Windows instance. And we're going to migrate, just noticed I made a mistake there in the value, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to migrate over a Linux instance.
Okay.
And instead of doing the test clone, we're going to do an offline migration. So the offline migration is what's needed to do to migrate over an AWS Linux instance. It'll shut down the source and recreate that instance inside of GCP.
Got it. So what type of job? This is offline migration this time?
Yeah. Okay,
and to update it instead. Now we get to do it, I'm guessing. Now we can take action. Oh, still got to validate.
Yep.
Like I said, man, it's like a self-help book. Must validate before you take action. All right, new job, offline migration.
So we picked the offline migration for that particular AWS Linux migration, but there's various migration life cycles that you can do. You can do a full migration that goes through the whole process of migrating and removing detaching the source and all that. There's the running cloud. There's just a storage migration. There's migration where you can upgrade the OS, test clone, and the offline migration. And there's several more to choose from, but I just wanted to go through them really quickly. And I would always recommend refer to the documentation to make sure you're using the right lifecycle for a particular migration.
Right. There's tons of things that Migrate for Compute can do, right?
Absolutely.
That's kind of the list of cool features there. So it looks like our migration succeeded. We're going through cleanup now, I guess.
Yep. And we're good with the offline migration. Yay!
I feel like I did something today.
Yeah, you earned your pay today.
So are we gonna like check them out? Is that our new
So
thing?
yeah, we're gonna RDP to first our Windows box and test, sure that we can access it.
I'm guessing we got to make us a firewall rule here so we can get in there.
Yeah, so first, always make sure that when you migrate the box over, it does have an external IP address. Sometimes if you migrate over, it might just have your private address and then not get to it.
So we're all good. And so we're actually getting into it now.
Yeah. So if I remember my password, yes, I did. Excellent.
Nice.
Yep, good.
The validation just keeps coming today, my man.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Oh, yes.
All right, so the Windows box is good to go.
Cool.
Now there is some post work that needs to be done. And I'm just checking you can see that the
this is a Linux box.
yeah, Linux box now. So I'm just checking the IP address, just gonna SSH into it. And there's a post cleanup also required for Linux as well.
Cool.
Now, if you want to make sure you have the new repos, the Google Cloud repos, and you want to make sure you go through and install the guest environment for Google Cloud for both Windows and for Linux, any operating system you pick.
And that's so you're just grabbing the commands real quick.
Yeah, we're going to go through really quick the Google commands. One thing very important to remember, I think after the first or second command, it requires a restart, or if you want to restart the service, but when in doubt, in Windows, restart. So I think it might be the second command that fails. Let's restart the box. Yep. So I restart it, I rerun my command, and we should be good to go.
All right, cool. More cooking show magic there where we did that fast. Let's go get the command.
That was a blink of an eye.
I wish Windows restarted that fast. It made my career a lot easier, I can tell you that.
So there's post commands inside the documentation just for just about every flavor of Linux and Windows.
So this really is installing the agent that GCP runs to ensure that we can do anything we want to it.
Yeah, when you want to update your operating system, you don't want to go to AWS repos, you want to go to GCP repos.
Right. So does that make it good to go once you get through those?
Yeah, good to go.
All right, cool. What about Linux? Do we do anything on Linux?
Well, I'm just showing you the Windows here. Linux, it's different commands, but it's the same basically setup process. Just a few other adjustments always. I think to your SSH keys, I had to make some adjustments there because you're going from an SSH key that's particular to a box as opposed to particular to all of GCP.
Nice. Well, Jorge, I hope this has been as good for you as it was for me. I really enjoyed it. But it is always a pleasure, my friend, to have you on and to work on.
I love being here. talking, chatting, having a good laugh, and going through some fun and exciting walkthroughs. So hopefully we'll do one of these soon.
Check it.